Hey, how are you at home? It's time for Give and Take. In fact, today it's Give and Tier because we are going to be giving our takes on a meta tier list for Classic Constructed. Now that we are at the eve of the release of Rosetta, it's time to talk about where these heroes fall in the wider meta. So, joining me today to put this tier list together is none other than Breezy. Breezy, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good.
Breezy's mic is nice and loud today. I like that. I like that. He's turned his mic up. I'm going to turn his mic down just so that it doesn't like make us all just freak out for a second with his hottest takes.
I'm turned up.
There it is. He's turned up. Indeed. I mean, there's good reasons. I mean, like Runeblade's eaten, man. This is time.
We're feasting. It's Thanksgiving already.
If you're not eating and turned up right now, I don't know what would do it for you. But TCG Talk might be able to shed some light on that today. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Doing good.
Y'all ready to talk a little bit about the upcoming meta that we're about to enter into?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so
let's get after it.
I have tried my best to put together a presentable screen for you to look at while we do this, and I'm going to explain to you how this is going to function. So here's what we got. We got our tier list. We got the hero that we're gonna talk about at the top there, and I am going to do my darndest to try and keep up with all of these things at the same time, and it's gonna be glorious. But what that does mean is that I'm not giving points out today because I would just lose my mind if I tried to do all of that. Nevertheless, we're gonna talk about all the heroes on this list, except of course the Living Legend heroes. So I wanted to start off by talking about Enigma. You see it there at the top. Enigma seems to be the hero that everyone's starting with in this meta, so I want to know your take. And the way that we're going to do this is I'm going to give one of you 30 seconds to stake your claim and make your case for where Enigma should fall. Then, after 30 seconds, I'm going to cut you off, and I'm going to toss it over to the other person to either provide a rebuttal or to strengthen their stance, the previous person's stance. So that's how it's going to function. First things first, though, I think this is quite important. So if you're at home, play along as well. How should we break these tiers down? We could just call them S, A, B, C, and D, or I can give them more kind of targeted names. What do y'all think? What are your thoughts, boys?
Ooh. I don't know. I mean, the simple answer is just leave them for digestible viewership.
Okay.
But I don't know.
So like S tier, is that like format defining? Is there only one hero in S tier? Or do you think that these are the heroes to beat that
when I think in this meta, when I think of S tier, I think it's like when you're going to progress season, your deck has to have a plan into said heroes. If they don't, then there's no point in playing the deck from a competitive perspective.
Yeah, that's what that
beat.
That's the S stands for, said heroes.
Said heroes.
Yeah.
Deal. Okay. S tier, heroes to beat said heroes. There it is. You can't return. Okay. What's A tier then?
Good decks for good players.
Heroes that can beat S tier. Good decks.
Okay.
Good players.
What's B tier? I think this is very important to set the stage of where we're going to be placing things, because you can just say B tier, but that could mean so many different things to so many different people. What is B tier to you? Is it like good decks that are hamstrung by something, or good decks with bad matchups, or is it like mediocre decks?
Yeah, I feel like these are like the potentials. Like these are the ones that kind of have the highest potential to raise up into A. So like these are the
potential.
I don't know how to potentials.
Yeah, but you could do potentials. Another way I look at B for this specific meta is like it's a good deck, but it probably has I'm not gonna auto loss is really drastic, but it has a really bad matchup into one of the decks that are going to be in the S. That's how I look at it.
Polarizing,
like they're good decks.
Maybe?
Yeah, polarizing maybe, because there's a couple of decks like that in my opinion.
What about C tier heroes?
Playing for passion.
You don't think that's D tier?
I don't know what D tier would be.
D tier's Don't play. Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
good.
always
That's
say
good.
instead of
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
don't play, I always say playing for passion. That's like the nice way of saying it. As an Arachne main, I ended up changing it to playing for passion, so I don't feel bad about myself.
Okay.
I feel like
Um,
C's are like you can win some games. You could get by. You can still have fun with these decks. Yeah,
Armory
exactly.
viable.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
strikes me. Okay. C is crap decks.
Crap
I love
decks.
that. Okay. So now that we've set the stage at least a little bit, I'm going to toss it to TCG Talk to lay the groundwork for where you think we need to place Enigma. Like I said, Enigma has sort of been reviewed as the hero that sets the benchmark. So let's hear what you think. Hit it.
Yeah, so Enigma, I mean, a lot of people are obviously going to put her in S. That's probably like the elephant in the room. The one thing that I think is really important to know is we're going to have we kind of like we talked about last episode, we're going to have 3 versions of this meta. And I think early on she's going to be top S, and then she'll slowly trickle down as time goes on, basically. So starts in S, and then over time she could end up being in like the mid to bottom of A, I think.
Okay. So your thought is S tier through and through to start. That is something else that we should talk about because this meta will start as one thing, and then, in my opinion, when the -IO Armory deck releases, will start to shift in a different direction. It could shift as early as like a couple of weeks from now, even before that deck releases. Nevertheless, it will shift over time, but if we're looking at a snapshot of like the now, what are your takes on it, Breezy?
Like starting tomorrow, I think she just stays in S tier as a deck to beat. So no rebuttal on this one as much as I want to because I don't like her. Simple as that. I want to see her in like low B, and I'm hoping that as decks get stronger, she just has a crutch and just crumbles easily as people become more accustomed with other kind of newer tools in the kit.
I could see that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there it is. So both of you seem to agree, and I would be hard-pressed to disagree with you both. I do believe that she is a hero to beat as well. Okay, so from that point, I'm just going to start going in perhaps in order, just with what's listed here. And yes, I just want to point out here we do also in this have Ira, the new Ira hero, so we can talk about that, which is
Nice.
quite spicy in my opinion, quite spicy indeed. But let's go ahead and talk about Vynnset. Vynnset's a hero that, in my opinion, has really come on strong with the additions from this set, and I'm very curious to see where you place her because I have my own thoughts and my own proclivities. Go ahead, Breezy, kick us off on this one.
Oh, dude, I've been seeing some disgusting things with Vynnset. I'm not going to say that she's one of the heroes to beat. I think that she's high A currently, because I think that she can still suffer from having blood debt as a thing. I know that there are a lot of lists circulating that don't really care about that, actually take benefit from that. She will grow into that as a benefit for her. So I think she's going to settle somewhere in the high A's.
So you think high A because of her just sheer power level?
Just sheer destruction.
What are your thoughts on that front, TCG Talk?
I would go a little bit lower. I have her in B for 2 reasons. One, until that hero proves it can be good, I'm gonna keep it in B. But the other thing about her early on is I think it's like people keep saying she's a silver bullet to Enigma and she can do some really good things, but she only has so many Shadow Non attacks, and if you put too many in the deck, it actually lowers the consistency, in my opinion. Like a lot of the good cards she got are not Shadow cards, so she's gonna have to like weigh, how many silver bullet pieces do I want to have in versus Enigma versus like how many like good cards like Maleficent Incantation and then Succumb and stuff like that. So, does she even run those cards? So I think she's a really big puzzle right now that's gonna make it kind of hard to solve. And on top of that, her KO matchup's 50-50. Her aggro matchup's still like 50-50 to unfavored. I think -IO is pretty favored in her, so I would put her in B personally. The top of B. She's like at the very top of B until I start seeing her do well.
Okay.
Also, I think she's like the third best
there,
one.
and I am going to actually agree with Breezy because I think she sits right at the bottom of A, in my opinion, or towards the bottom of A. But I think you're both pretty close, and I would tend to agree with both of you for the reasoning. She does sit somewhere around here, and she can have polarizing kind of moments, and really she almost dies to her own deck in some way, shape, and form. But to me, I'm going to sit her here, and I would imagine we're going to add some other heroes to the A tier as we go. But continuing on, we will push through and talk about a hero that won Worlds last year, which is none other than Fi. And I don't know if we can say Fi is going to win Worlds this year, but let's talk about it, starting with you, TCG Talk.
I would actually make a bold claim that Fi is the worst deck in the game right now. I can't think of a deck that's worse than Fi. I actually think Betsy would be better positioned in this meta than Fi. I think Olympia I'd rather be playing Olympia. Like Fi just there's absolutely zero reason to play that deck now with Art of War gone. There's just so many more tools for so many heroes. I'd almost rather be playing Teklo right now. If I can avoid Enigma. Fi is just very bad, and I think it's going to be, I think it's in the bottom of don't play tier. Interesting,
because I can't say that I disagree with you, but Breezy, what is your take on this?
Dude, Fi is so sad. He took an arrow to the knee straight up. I'm gonna say D tier for sure. There's just a handful of other heroes that you just would be better viably suited to play, especially if you're really competitively playing. Now, if you're just going to play for passion, you could have an argument for it, but if you're trying to win games consistently, dude just has so many tools stripped from him. He's D tier. Simple as that.
Yeah, I will actually argue that he is now living legended. So he's going to go down at the bottom here. He does not exist for all intents and purposes in this meta anymore. I agree with both of you. D tier, aka don't play. But someone who just got some new tools, maybe not from this set, but from their own armory deck, is Boltyn. Boltyn's an interesting one because he's been given 1.2 million specializations and pieces of like tech and things like that. And I think for the most part, it's really helped his consistency and playability. But in this meta we're going into, where do you see him sitting, Breezy?
I just don't think that we're in a meta right now where yellow matters. And that's just what he cares about. And I'm going to say that he does have some polarizing matchups, but I'm going to say like low. I'm gonna say C. I'm just gonna put him in C.
Okay.
I think that there's gonna be specialty heroes that do really well on him, but people will do better on Vynnset having not played her for much longer. So like the commitment won't pay off for Boltyn, I don't think.
Okay. So C tier is where you're starting him off at. So you're picturing something like just being the first C tier hero. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Breezy is checked in at C tier. What's your take, TCG Talk?
I would put Boltyn at the top of D. I don't see that hero's everyone's been saying for like 3 metas now, Boltyn's getting better, and like we have a really good local Boltyn player here, Annie, who's like really, really good, but like Enigma is terrible because even though you are like you can do some tempo, like they're not blocking you with attacks, so like you have to like somehow generate soul when they're just playing ward on the board. Your combo plan is not good enough to stop -IO. You're basically like 40-60 in every single relevant hero in the meta except for maybe Azaelia. Like that's like a 50-50 matchup. Every other matchup is awful right now, and we might see more Riptides early on because of Enigma and stuff like that, and other stuff, and even more news if Enigma goes down. So like no matter which way the meta teeters, Boltyn's just in a really bad spot. I would not play Boltyn in the Progress season.
So are you thinking lower than C? You think D?
Yeah, I think like top of D. I would not call Boltyn even armory viable personally.
Interesting. Okay, so for me, I look at Boltyn and I think to myself, can you play like combo out? And this is a meta that's looking at a lot of different disruptive tools to try and stop some of the new heroes. And if those disruptive tools in any way, shape, or form hit Boltyn, then he takes, just like you mentioned earlier, an arrow to the knee. So I would be a little reticent to run him out there. But if we see a meta that, is rife with, like mid-range soup type decks, where everyone's just playing sort of like these mid-range value type games that are going to go decently long, he might actually have a spot. For right now, though, I don't have an opinion either way. Chat, do you have an opinion either way on Boltyn. If you do, sound off in the comments in the chat right now while we talk about Teklo, because I would like to know if there's a Boltyn player out there that has one very strong feeling or another that direction. But Teklo is kind of one of those other heroes that really hasn't had a time to shine in a very similar way that Boltyn hasn't. Is there a time here? C, they're saying. B, they think. Low C. Plow under is Boltyn combo hate. It is, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things right now that could kind of lean into combo hatred, and I'm very curious to see if I'm just way off base or if he's just like okay in the meta. It could just be that he sits here and we're all just like a little bit doomers, which is, I mean, fine, because like you mentioned, TCG Talk, he's supposedly good every single meta we enter, and then it just never really pans out. But
Boltyn and Vynnset both good every single minute.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I think Vynnset actually has the...
yeah, Vynnset finally got
I like the cut of her jib, as they say. So, TCG Talk, Teklo, go.
Teklo is so hard. I love Teklo as a hero design. It's super fun. Like, it's one of the more fun decks to play regardless where it's at. I just don't think right now you can play it, and I'm not going to be as crazy doomer on that because I like have a soft spot for the deck. But in a world where you have Dash IO and Kayo, which you can't slow down enough, and then Enigma is just like you might as well both go get lunch together. Like, it's so bad. So if the meta went back similar to Boltyn, if the meta went, like, let's say Enigma got weeded out by arcane mid-range heroes, and we went to like this Rosetta style meta with Florian and Verdance and stuff like that, then you could see Teklo come back similar to how he was in heavy hitters.
Yeah.
But right now he's definitely a D tier, but he's a hero that's like waiting for the right meta, and I think he's always going to be that way until they like give him a lot of new cards, which is fine. So yeah,
I tend to agree with a lot of what you said, but let's see if Breezy does. Right now you currently have him sitting towards the top of D, threading the line here, which could very well come to pass. What do you think, Breezy? What is your take?
Yeah, I don't have a soft spot for him. Don't play this hero. Just don't. I think that if you lean into his like fatigue long play game style with a combo pop off at the end, there's just better heroes for that right now. And there's no way that he would ever be the fastest mechanologist. So he just sits in limbo until, I agree with Dylan, they just do something about him. So until then, I just wouldn't touch him. There's just other mechanologists if you want to please that side of your brain, and there's other fatigue long game heroes that are actually viable if you want to please that side of your brain. That's the simple answer.
I will say one thing, not meta related though. He did get adaptive dissolver, which is like a super big upgrade for him. Like for him to be able to start with AB on the field is nice. It doesn't really change his position in the meta, but I am glad they actually put that option in, that AB piece that can be swapped to a different area, so he can always have AB until he's ready to do his thing.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that front. It does give him a big boost, but it doesn't really affect him in the way that you might think going into what would, some might have thought a wizard meta, because we're getting a wizard and Runeblade set. And yet, I think we might just see some of these heroes up here towards the top really kind of punch their tickets to the top. Speaking of heroes that are punching through and, charging down, we have another mechanologist here, one that I think has far better prospects, and that's Dash IO. Dash IO is horrifying, but I think she's horrifying in a month, and she's just good right now. What do you think, Breezy?
Yeah, for sure. I think that she's got the most potential to become like the aggro deck of the meta. Now that Zen has taken a big back seat, especially with the new tools coming out. Though because of that, I think that I don't think that she'll ever have as big combo turns as Zen did, and that she does suffer from things like the disruption because she just can't block as easily. She can't turn into like a defensive deck on a dime. She's got a lot of non-blockers. She has to do things at very, very fast pace to make split decision actions. And then if she doesn't get those things to pop off on her time, then she's prone to just taking 13, 15 damage per turn. Yep. So for that, I am going to put her at A tier, like top A tier. I don't think she's S tier though.
Okay. You think as of right now, or do you think in a month that she's A?
Well, I'm still going to put her in A. I am still going to put her in A.
I would say as of right now, A is where I would put her as well, simply because we don't have access to some of those crazy bonkers cards that she's going, well, specifically one crazy bonkers card that she's going to get in the Armory deck. But what do you think, TCG Talk?
right now I agree. First off, though, I think she's getting more block. Like, we have to talk about these cards that are coming out, because that's what's gonna people are gonna be expecting that, right, in week 3 of ProQuest when it comes out. Like, heavy industry surveillance, the headpiece is playable in my opinion. Like, it's a block 2 where you banish top card of your deck. It's better than the block 1. You could just play Crown Province. So, but the leg piece is where I'm super excited about, because being able to block 1 with Battle Worn and then destroy and banish top 2 cards of your deck and as an action and gain an action point. Like, you put the new 0 cost draw card on there, gain 2 action points, start drawing card. Like, she's just gonna be able to do some really dumb stuff.
Yep.
And I will put her in A now. I agree, but I think when that deck comes out, she is the best deck in the format, and it's not because of like sheer power, but because that deck is everyone's going to have to plan for that deck more than any other deck in the format, in my opinion, when it comes out, which will then shift a lot of other decks. But yeah, right now she's a tip top of A, moving into S once she gets her stuff.
Yeah, I would agree. I think this is a fine spot for her to be at this current moment. That's really probably where she belongs. I think she's just going to feast as well. Like you said, I think she will be the premier aggro deck of the format. I don't know if she'll be the best deck in format, because any deck that has to run, a lot of 0 blocks is prone to, a lot of different types of disruption and just, other aggro decks that can get there. But I don't know if anyone's going to be able to do it faster than her. And that's pretty cool, but it is it's quite scary as well. Something that makes me very sad is Kassai. And namely, it makes me sad because we unfortunately don't have the aggressive version of her in the same form and facet, losing cash-in. But what do you think of her prospects into this upcoming meta TCG Talk?
Yeah, I agree with you. I love Kassai's like general play loop. She reminds me very much of Ira, where it's like the epitome of how Flesh and Blood was originally designed when it comes to like waiting for your power turn and stuff. Anyway, I think what sucks for her now is her whole thing was like 2 card 8s, right, with her red attack reactions, and now we just got 2 heroes that do that breathing, and they don't need to draw certain cards to do it. So like, I just think her value plan in old school Flesh and Blood was very good, but in the new Flesh and Blood, there's just decks that do better than her. But if you really love Warrior, I think she is one of the better ones to play. So
yeah, I
would probably
agree.
put her at the top. I'll put like mid C if I had to give an answer. She's armory viable. If you have good fundamentals, you'll win games with her at like a local level, but I wouldn't take her to a big event.
Shout out to Thomas Dowling saying Dio Gamers rise up. I mean, he rose up first, so we got to follow his lead. What do you think, Breezy, on Kassai?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, with the cash-in removal and less gold payoff, that just really hurts a lot. Her hero ability just matters a lot less until they do something about it and make it matter a little bit more. So I'd agree. I mean, I'd probably say armory viable. There are some diehards that are gonna keep cooking with her, but like Dylan said, there's just heroes that can do the same things that she can do damage-wise with 2 cards in hand, and don't need to, hide that thing in arsenal to get the gotcha moment. It's just not necessary at the moment. So I'd say armory viable as well, which stinks.
I think the biggest point about talking about Kassai right now is how she plays into Enigma. When she had access to cash in and you can play aggressively, you had at least a shot. It was not a very good shot, but you had at least a shot to claw your way through that matchup and in on an attack reaction and try to win the game. And a lot of times you could get at least close, if not actually punch over the top. But because she lost her ability to draw 2 cards off of cash in and push, like an 18 or 20 damage turn, I just don't know if she can ever really get there. Again, if we ever go back to like a mid-range soup type meta where everyone's just playing like these longer games, second cycle is a thing, and she has the capacity to really get an edge via gold tokens and gold generation like she can in sealed and draft in that format, she could come back. But as of right now, her losing the mass spike turn of cash in into these big red attacks means that she probably sits down here or right here. I don't know. I would guess I would probably put her above Boltyn because she can just do the thing more consistently. That's probably where I'd have her sit.
Yeah, she's a hero where if you play properly, like this is no disrespect to anybody, but at a local level, players not playing 100% optimally like you do at like a top 8 battle harden or something. She's very similar to Victor, where like if you don't know how to play into her with your said deck, she can't just beat you because of value, but overall at a bigger level, no.
Yeah. Which is, to me, it's sad because I love that hero. I think she's fantastic. She is the closest thing to a pirate that we have in the game so far. One day we'll have a pirate, but man, she plays just like a pirate would in a lot of respects. Not very piratey, but also very cool is Betsy, another hero from Heavy Hitters. How do we feel about Betsy right now? Because it's interesting. Guardians feel like they're just in a strange spot going into this meta. And I want to know what you think on Betsy's chances, TCG Talk.
It's really bad, but it's nothing that's Betsy's fault. Guardian right now, like just with the amount of fridge that we have in the game, just period. Now, like even for goodness sakes, a Cilio, a deck that probably should have no block, has what 5-6 armor. Like it's just the design of Guardian. They're really gonna. I'm really interested to do with that Guardian Master set because they're gonna have to completely retool how Guardian works in some way, shape, or form. Because decks like Betsy and Bravo, even with Dominate, like your first 2 times you swing that big attack, your opponent doesn't care, and so she's gonna be in a bad spot until they either print extremely overrate cards for Guardian, like similar to like Mech where you can't block with equipment, or B they just retool the class because the amount of fridges that everyone has, especially Runeblade coming back in the meta, I don't see any of the Guardians be even remotely playable.
The stuff said Betsy won't be a real hero until we get the log weapon, which would be a pretty cool weapon to get. Who knows what that thing's going to do. But where would you put her, TCG Talk?
I would put her in D, and I would put every Guardian except Victor in D, but yeah, she's in D.
Okay. What about Breezy? Breezy, how do you feel about Betsy?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Drink 'em Under the Table is a really good direction for her because she needs to be able to do more Bravo-esque style things where it's disruption in the hand and not just like, cool, I got a vigor. Like those wagers just don't matter so much. No. So I think Drink 'em Under the Table is an insane card. Obviously you pitch 6, you can turn her ability on, do the thing, and pretty much guarantee asterisk that the thing happens. So until that happens, she's just D tier. I'd rather play Bravo, straight up.
That's a dangerous prospect. I don't know. I might rather play Betsy with her sort of cheaper on-demand type of dominate in Overpower. The Overpower we have at home, or the dominate we have at home. Nevertheless, I kind of have her here as well. My question to both of you, is she better than Teklo?
Honestly, I would say yes.
In this specific meta, yes, because Teklo is just he's just an auto loss in 2 of the top 3 decks. So yeah, into this meta specifically, she at least has a fighting chance if she runs like Zealous Boltyns and similar to Victor.
And she has disruption as well, which I think is quite important. The disruption is the really important part. So continuing down the Heavy Hitters train, we now have Kayo, who's probably a bit different from the 2 heroes from Heavy Hitters that we've just talked about. What do you think about this, Breezy?
I mean, he's still insane. I think he still does really, really good stuff. Just recently got Sash, like before the next big tournament. So I think there's still going to be people that are dedicated to him. He can still argue with Arcane. He can still play that long game. I've been fatigued by KO before. So I think he might honestly still be an S tier. Just because he's very flexible. Like he's got a lot of flexibility and can still just like output damage to your face, and was one of the only classes that can still draw cards and do crazy things without the need for Outer War.
Yeah, you bring up a very good point. He still can draw 2 cards thanks to Blood Rush Bellow.
Yeah. And people are still saying like, you don't get rid of your balance yet because KO. I mean, and that's a big topic of discussion. I think that still speaks volume, right? I think he's still a hero to beat right now.
So you're thinking towards the S tier then, huh?
I do, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's put that there, and then let's talk to TCG Talk, because you might have a different take.
I do think he's S, and I'll kind of expound on why. Is like he never really had a bad matchup, but he really just especially doesn't now. The only matchup that's even remotely bad, and it's not that bad, is Dash.io with the new cards, like from what I've seen with limited games. I've been watching some friends play, but even Enigma, it's a super skill-intensive matchup, but that's like a straight 50-50 in my opinion. Like better pilot wins, or if you draw the right cards at the right time. I think his biggest thing is like the deck now, especially more than ever, is almost like autopilot brainless to play. It's like the 6 wild ride, like crazy. Just, the lines are so obviously played. And if I wanted to play a deck at a big event, like going into Worlds, I want to play Kayo because the deck is not like Enigma takes insane pilot skill to play at the highest level. Kayo still takes a lot of skill, but not as much. And so when you combine that with like their natural power level, I think it just puts them in S.
Yeah, I would actually agree. I think he does sit at S. I don't think he sits at S in the same category as something like a meta warping hero like Enigma. And I also don't think he sits in S like Zen ever sat in S.
Yeah.
I think he sits in S as a weirdly fair deck. It seems weird to say fair, but I feel like he just was being hamstrung by a clearly better and more powerful and more explosive deck in Zen. And now that matchup is no longer an issue, he can sort of rise back to the fore, and he has game into other heroes. Plus, yes, the deck is like well tuned at this point, but I think that there is room, I should say, for tech into new heroes and tech into, heroes that he might have a bad matchup into currently. So we'll see how that goes. But any hero that can currently, draw 2 cards and then send a bunch of damage via the very powerful Sash should be considered towards the top here. And may not be the only brute we talk about towards the top of the meta, but we'll see. Because now we bounce to yet another heavy hitter hero. They're all listed right here, so we'll continue down the rabbit hole. And this one's Olympia. Olympia did get a new card in the last set, and we saw nothing of that, which is quite sad. It's quite sad. So,
that
you remember that card, TCG Talk?
Yeah, the one I accidentally got last week. Yeah.
So tell me about this hero and how you feel about Olympia.
Olympia is super fun, and I mean, we all know, like, James White and them even admitted that the hero was created kind of last second, not in like an overly negative way, it just was, right? So they didn't really have a game plan on how to make that hero viable. So I'm excited to see where that hero goes. The hero is like a half-baked hero right now. It's definitely D tier until it gets like more support, but stuff like Visit the Golden Anvil is really cool concept. And again, that hero is somewhat similar to Teklo to me, where if you go into this mid-range meta and he can get a few more tools, he could actually be really fun to play. But also cash in going away hurts him, so
it really does.
There's that as well.
It really does. So you have him in D tier?
Yeah, I have him in D tier, and it's no negative on him. He's not fully designed yet, in my opinion.
Okay. Where would you slot him if you had to put him here?
I'd put him above Teklo. I don't know what Breezy thinks, but I'd put him in between Betsy and Teklo. I'd rather play him than Teklo right now.
Breezy, what do you think?
Yeah, gold wasn't the payoff. Because you just don't do anything with this hero. I mean, when Wager is embedded and baked into your hero ability and you want to use that mechanic, you just go Betsy. Because she can force you to win wagers, asterisk again. So yeah, I think I agree. I mean, he's just D tier until we start to see something more happen. With Visit the Golden Anvil, you kind of say, oh, cool, like we'll run a little bit fatiguey and recycle our equipment and just run the long game. Again, there's like 6 other heroes right now that could do that better and on accident, like Kayo.
You're not wrong. Oh yeah, you're very right. It's just so it's sad that that's the truth, that it's just there's better equipment out there than cycling the warrior equipment that he has access to. Oh yeah, what a day. What a sad day, but he'll get there eventually because I think he's going to have some cool stuff down the way. And honestly, I think all the if you had to pick a class, let's take a pause right here because we're making good time through this. If you had to pick a class to get a mastery set next, how is it not warrior?
Straight up, I agree.
I mean, is there a more needy class? TCG Talk, what do you think?
There's not a more needy class. I think Warrior is a good one. I think it will be one of the Welcome to Wraith classes in general, right? So you either see what Warrior, Brute, which Brute just got something, or Ninja. They seem to love Ninja, so I wouldn't be surprised. And that's not I'm not joking because I love Ninja.
No, you're actually right. It might be Ninja. No, you're actually totally right.
Ninja is actually like funny. okay, funny enough, when Zen goes away, Ninja actually needs insane help and retooling. That's the scary part. But yeah, if I was no bias at all, I would say Warrior right now probably.
I think you might be right. Actually, Ninja probably needs it more, but who doesn't need it? And that is Victor here. We're going to talk about Victor next. And you were talking about Victor earlier, TCG Talk. So I'm going to kick it to you first. What is your take on Victor right now?
Yeah, I like Victor a lot. Victor's in a weird spot right now. The Enigma matchup is not favored, but it's not unwinnable. It's not one of those matchups where it's like, because like, for example, at the highest level, in my opinion, new versus Enigma, you have to get insanely lucky to win. Like you got to hope that your opponent makes a mistake or two and doesn't see the cards they're supposed to see. That's just my opinion. Whereas Victor, if with the right tooling and right kit, can really make the matchup like somewhat winnable. And then when you go past Enigma, like Victor, you can run a little bit more hate, or not Victor, Kayo, you can run a little more hate to him. Now that he's running like 6 wild rides, weakest league's even better. Victor just has either a favorable or even matchup into everything. And in my opinion, Victor is also the biggest skill gap hero in the meta right now, where like if you don't know how to play into him, he will destroy you. Unless you're like a random really good matchup into him, he is the biggest like skill check. Like, do you know how to pitch stack? Do you know how to like place in the second cycle? Do you know how to play around my block cards? Like all that stuff.
So where do you place him?
I place Victor in the good deck. He's above Vynnset for me and below -IO currently, and obviously that section will get built out more. But right now I have him in good deck, especially the ProQuest level. He's like at the top of at the ProQuest level for me.
Yeah, I think if we're looking at that sort of mid-tier style of event, like the ProQuest, or maybe even you can argue the Calling, or at least Battle Hardens. We can talk about Battle Hardens. I think he's not a bad pickup and run out there. Especially as you mentioned, if you don't have your game plan set up into him. What do you think, Breezy, on good old Victor?
Yeah, I mean, there for a while there, he was like the premier guardian, and I think he still is. And the world of this game really needs that. And so, yeah, I mean, gold actually has a payoff. You actually want to make gold. You want to do things, and there's times late game where that gold payoff to just draw him the card to then just volley back and swing for 4 is just insane, and like puts you on the back foot every time you're taking a ping. So I think he still has viability even into heroes like Dash that are going to just try to run super aggro. He's got the fridge, he's got all the 3 blocks, he can run fully defensive packages. I think he's just still a really good hero. Very viable. I would still say, I don't know, I would probably still put him below Vynnset because I think he can but at the same time I agree with Dylan that if you don't know how to play into him, you can lose. But I still think that Vynnset's better than him.
You think so?
And there's a slight bias there because there's just certain things that he can't do against a slurry of rune chants and physical on hits. When you're swinging 14 plus damage combined value on a single turn, not to mention that you can do like multiple of those now with Vynnset. Yeah. So the only thing that he has against it is he can just fatigue Vynnset.
Yeah, I think that's the angle that you take. But for me, I actually am teetering back and forth between these two positions as well. And it's not because of their matchup into each other. It's because of their matchup into Enigma and Kayo. That's really the question mark for both of them is where they sit with regards to Enigma and Kayo. I think I would put it here. So I'll be the tiebreaker. But let's have chat sound off. So sound off if you believe that they would sit here or if you think that they would sit somewhere else. Yeah, if it's super quiet, let me know that as well because I have been tooling the audio as we go. But next here that we're going to talk about is the original, the OG warrior in Dorinthea. Dorinthea, Dorinthea. Dorinthea is like always one of those heroes, and there's a couple of them. Maybe Boltyn's the same way. Maybe it's just warriors in general that everyone's like, well, but what if you played Dorinthea now? And then everyone goes, nah, I don't know. Maybe we don't play Dorinthea. But there could be a world that we live in that Axis Dory could be a thing. So does that put her in a better position, or does she just die to the S-tier heroes? Breezy.
She's definitely got the most flexibility of all the heroes. I mean, you're thinking about like not even too long ago, she was running Decimator to try to like play the long game, chip damage, can possibly fatigue. Also, you got Hatchet Story, which is just really consistent and just does the thing and just like eventually you can't ignore it. So of all the warriors, I think she's probably the one to go with. But at the same time, I don't know that she's got like the thing that shows off in this meta. So I'm gonna say Armory viable.
Oh, okay.
I kind of want to put her in B tier. Actually, I actually think that she's got legs. I think that she does have legs and would be a surprise matchup at a big tournament.
Okay, so you're thinking somewhere around here.
Yeah, I'm gonna say like low B, high C.
Okay, what about you, TCG Talk?
Yeah, so she's the epitome of that B tier, in my opinion, like good but polarizing. So if you play Axis Dory and you just say Enigma's not real, you're in a really good spot because she's actually like not super good. I'm over it saying it, but like she's good into every major deck in the format except Enigma, and Riptide's a little hard, but Riptide's not gonna have a heavy representation, right? So like she's good into the aggro deck. She can outvalue pretty much all of them. She's 50-50 or better into pretty much every aggro deck in the format. She Assassin, like if you don't play correctly and the Dory really knows how to approach that matchup, it's good. She is good into heroes like Maxx, who might get more viability here soon. Her matchup spread is like 50-50 or better into pretty much everything except Enigma, and a little bit of Victor can be a little difficult, but that matchup's skill intensive. So if you went to an event and you said, I'm just going to gym luck, I'm not going to run to Enigma, I know I'm not, and just like speak that into existence, I agree with Breezy. You could see her in like a top 8, and people are like, "Why is this hero here?" It's because they matched. It's because they matched up into one Enigma all day, which happens every tournament, right? Where you get that one player. So, I put her in B.
Do you think that she sits here primarily off of the Axes build, or do you think that the Dawnblade kind of pivot point type build, where you could play, the new card Unsheathed, is just as viable?
I'd say Axes, like Dawnblade with all the fridge and with Ward, like that's just like not, in my opinion, not consistent enough. Maybe at a ProQuest level you could get away with it, but add like a Battle Hardener, and as we're going into this winter season, I would say Axes is her only true like competitive build.
I would agree with that. I think her Axis build is actually solid into Kayo, and then I think she's terrified of Enigma. But we talked about it earlier. Enigma eventually could make her way out of the S tier if certain things and certain stars perhaps align. If that's the case, I do think that a hero that does have a really, really strong mid-game style, mid-range list could make her way up in the form of Dory. But as it stands right now, I think I would definitely agree that she's pretty good on the Axis build, but definitely polarizing, and specifically because Enigma exists. Well, a deck that might not exist anymore, but maybe you'll tell us, is none other than Zen, because Zen received 5, 6, 7, 8, all the nerfs. They received all the nerfs. Zen has been nerfed down, and rightfully so, because after the first round of nerfs, more were needed, and nerfing continued until morale improved. So, where do we stand now on none other than Zen?
Gosh. I mean, I think that he still has viability if you really want to play Ninja. I know that there's a lot of hot air being blown around that Zen's not dead, but I think that he got fied straight up. Like he just straight up got fied to oblivion, and we saw how that turned out. So I think that he's sitting somewhere in the mid to low Bs, and that's being like generous because he still has access to some of the best like new equipment, and I think that transforming is still just really, really cool. I'm giving him some benefit of the doubt.
There you go. At least you give him some transcend points. Am I right? What do you think, TCG Talk, as the resident Ninja player?
Oh, this deck's straight armory viable. Like it's just like so. So okay, I'm gonna go back for, if you can give me 30 seconds here. We're a little bit ahead. Is like back when Katsu and Phi were in the Dromai meta, right? And you saw Dromai get tome, and people were always like, "Oh, play Ninja if you want to be good in a Dromai." And then what people didn't realize, because they hadn't played the matchup, is that matchup was actually closer to 50-50 than you realize because of the upgrades. It's like that, but the other way around now. With the bans, people are like, "Oh, well, he'll still be good into Enigma." Played that matchup the last 2 weeks. It's still favored, but it's not that good because the power ceiling has lowered. If you like before was in, if you tripped up on a hand, it wasn't that bad, right? Like you're gonna find that power turn, and you're gonna deal 30-40 damage, and you're gonna climb back in the game. That's not a thing anymore. So if you trip up once or twice, and Enigma develops even a decent board state and can keep it on the board, like you're in trouble. So that matchup, like although still favored, I would say arbitrarily given a percentage is like 60-40 now, maybe. But you're terrible into Victor. you lose to News just like auto lose in my opinion. You're not fast enough to beat Kayo. You're not fast enough to beat Dash IO, especially with the new cards. Viserai and Vynnset have on hits now that you actually have to care about because you can't just straight race them. Azaelia is like weird. So yeah, I would just put him. He's at the top of Armor Revival. I would not.
Yeah.
There's like 3 aggro decks in the game better than him right now, and I would not take him to any event above maybe like a small pro quest.
Honestly, I agree with you, and I'm not even sure I would put him in the top of Armory Viable, but I do think he's better than these two that are currently in the C tier of heroes. So I have him there as well, and I mean, maybe he trends upwards after people play like a bunch of tigers and realize that he can still kind of go wide, but I'm not so sure. I'm not so sold. And that's okay. It's okay for a hero to take a pretty large step back after they gobbled up as many points as he did. So we'll see how he turns out in this meta. But a hero that might be gaining a lot of percentage points, Maxx the Hype Nitro. Kick us off with this one, TCG Talk.
This hero is so interesting. So I think this hero is this is a weird analogy, and maybe you'll get it, maybe you're not. And don't give me the extra points for this. There's no points. This doesn't matter anymore.
There's no points.
This hero is very similar to Kano, where I think the hero's power level is not going to reflect the representation.
He said it.
I think the hero is very good, but I don't think it's going to be very as much played. Because the Dash IO Armory deck's going to come out, and everybody's going to want to play, I think, Dash IO. People aren't going to naturally realize how good that 0 for 3 is in Maxx, and how even good the boots can be in Maxx if you don't want the AB1, right, to be able to gain action points to have even a wider turn with your mech, or pre-mech with like high octane. So, sure. Yeah, I think Maxx is very good. The Enigma matchup seems pretty good. KO matchup, I think, is slightly unfavored in my opinion, but it's not bad. It's really going to see how much like face time does the hero get, because that's a hero that I think the power level again is not going to weigh the representation, and you're going to see a very skilled player who's been playing the deck before it got the upgrades just come and spike an event randomly, like similar to how we saw that one Maxx win that one calling over in the APAC region. I think you'll see something like that again, where Maxx just comes out of nowhere and wins an event, and people are like, "Oh,
so
the deck is
good." Are you thinking B then?
Yeah, I think B right now, definitely like the top of B, like, and that's the one hero I would look at to go into the A range once it proves itself a little bit more.
Interesting. What do you think, Breezy?
Yeah, man, this is I think Maxx is like one of those heroes that was properly designed at a proper trajectory rate. He wasn't like well below the curve that it was like, why would you play this, like Teklo was. So I think that he's on the trajectory to continue to rise up, especially with the kit coming out and him using some of the tools for the best. So I think that he's going to honestly be in the A tier.
Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that he's going into A tier, and the only reason is because the people that just are attracted to who he is and how he plays are gonna play him. Otherwise, you'd rather just be playing Dash if you're really just wanting to go like mechanologist. I think that his mech turns, his mech capabilities are just insane, and I think that there's a lot to go off there. So I'm gonna put him as the hot take of the night. I'm gonna put him in A. But below Victor and Vynnset.
Okay. I don't know. Should I allow you to burn a hot take of the night token on this one pick?
I think
I just made this
solid,
up. Hot take of the night token. You get one. Everyone gets one. Is this where you want to use it? Is this your moment?
Dude, I think that Maxx is slept on. I think that Maxx is slept on, man.
Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say I would put him here. I would actually. I personally believe that he's here. I think that depending on how the meta shapes up after the first few weeks, he could gain a lot of points, because if we go to a mid-range meta where, heroes are kind of really efficiently trading back and forth,
he just feasts.
He profits, a ton. Yeah. But if it's aggressive in any way, shape, or form, like people are just trying to push and swing, I don't think he gets there. But hot take token is being burned by Breezy. I should make a little graphic that allows us to do that. Boom. Do like the hand signs so we get them like things light up. I don't know.
I think it's this one.
There it is. Does it work?
Does it work? Does it work?
Oh, no.
I don't think it does.
Oh, it's broken. All right. Well, it's on the A tier. None of them work. Oh,
It
there
doesn't
you go.
work.
There it is.
There we go.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
I will
Perfect.
say too for Maxx, one thing is I think a lot of people will look at like Talishar stats and think he's worse than he is because everyone's wanting to do the mech thing. When
Yeah.
like the good players know matchups, they're like, oh, I can't mech on this match. Like when you play
Yeah,
against a
that's
Zen,
true,
you're
that's
like,
true.
I can't mech this matchup. I'm just gonna outvalue and boost the crap out of you and go for max V turns.
Yeah.
But a
Yeah.
lot of people that are new to the hero just try mech every game and they don't realize like there's like 10 matchups where you don't even play mech. So or you don't look for mech. So yeah.
All right. Well, that's positioning him where he perhaps deserves. We'll see. But Prism is up next. Prism is one that, as you mentioned earlier, took an arrow to the knee thanks to the banning of Tome of Divinity. So, how do you feel about Prism's chances now?
Man, I should have saved my hot take for this one. Just don't play her because
I already know what hero I'm using on.
I don't want to see this hero anymore. No, I'm gonna say that she's still. I'm gonna say that she's I'm gonna say she's B tier. I'm gonna say she's B tier. Primarily because aggro Herald is still just so disruptive and gross. But if you're going to play Illusionist, there's no reason why you wouldn't play Enigma right now. I think she just makes better use of ward and shields and everything that can happen so fast and snowball.
Okay.
Whereas I have played many games into Prism and not once let her hit me, and she just didn't know what to do. And she's just like, I can't do my angel thing, and that's just a hard stop to her. So if you're trying to go that route, there's just too hard of a counter for that. So, but the Herald aggro stuff is just gross, and I hate it so much. So I'm gonna say B.
Okay.
I think she's got polarizing matchups where she can just smoke you.
So you're thinking around here. I would put her. I mean,
I
if
think
we're doing I'd put her there. But let's see what TCG Talk says. He's channeling his inner Prism.
I want to use my hot take tonight just to make her go lower, but I'm saving my hot take for a different hero. No, I think she's a top of C. Like she's armory viable now, and I hate saying that. Like there's a couple amazing Prism pilots that will do well with the hero, but if you look at the matchup spread, one, she can just get fatigued now because not having access to Tome. It's very hard to establish that loop. I would say almost impossible against a competent opponent. You really have to draw like the perfect set of cards off of your shuffle in order to get that loop in there. And then when you look at cards like decks like Dash.io, that's going to be like a near auto loss. Kayo is now a near auto loss in my opinion, unless they just get super lucky and they draw like 3 non-blocks or something. In my opinion,
there's not a lot of poppers in KO unless you side more in, you know.
There's a couple, but there's enough combined with his aggressiveness where it just makes it really hard. Maxx, if he gets better, will be really bad for her. Victor's still really bad for her. In my opinion, Vynnset, who might get played more, is pretty bad for her. I just think, like, what are you attacking if you play Prism other than I just want to Unga Bunga Herald beat down somebody? Like, there's no, you're good into New and you're good into Azaelia. That's literally it. Like, other than that, you're 50-50 or worse than everything else that's even relevant in the meta. So because of that, I'd have to put her in C. Because, like, other than just loving the hero, there's no real reason to play her right now.
Dude, I would not put her in the category with Zen.
It's just if you can't loop people, that was so much of her game plan into a lot of matchups. And so if you're just going to say, I hope to God you don't have a popper here, again, she's only good into New and Azaelia now. She's 50-50 or worse into every other relevant deck in the meta, in my opinion.
I don't know. I think she just goes like pure aggression, plays a bunch of Angelic Wraths, and plays a bunch of what's the one where they're booping? My wife and I always called it boop because it looks like they're just touching. The Celestial Reprimand.
Yeah.
I think she just plays a bunch of those, and then she just becomes like a decent aggro deck. So maybe you could argue her being here or her being here as a decent aggro deck into a less than huge popper meta. I don't know. Less than huge. I wouldn't say it's like a massive popper meta right now, and it certainly depends on how Enigma gets built going forward if more poppers make their way in. But I don't think Prism is defining that in any way, shape, or form. But if you believe differently in the comments or in the chat, let us know where Prism should sit. If you think it's B tier, if you think it's C tier, or if you just think you should not play her. Either way, I'm excited to talk about this next one because the next one is a hero that was for the longest time the just D tier, bottom of the barrel, and now returns to the perhaps the top of the meta in Azaelia. So where do you think Azaelia falls now, TCG Talk?
I think she's definitely at the top of A. The Enigma matchup is very skill intensive, and it can like swing either way based off who hot draws. But for the most part, it's super skill intensive and fun. Kayo's slightly unfavored, but pretty much 50-50, honestly. And then she's good into pretty much everything else, vice Victor, and it'll be interesting to see how much Victor we see like early on ProQuest season. This is a hero that if the meta shapes up the right way, she's extremely good. But if it goes the other way, then she might struggle a little bit more. Like if if Enigma trends down, and then we start seeing like Dash IO, which will then make Assassin come back, then she goes down just a couple points. But if it stays kind of how it is right now, I think she has to be in the A. I think she's the best pseudo aggro deck in the game right now until Dash IO gets her cards.
Okay.
So I'd put her above Dash IO, like specifically. That's where I would put her.
Okay, Breezy, how do you feel about Azaelia now?
Yeah, I think that she's one that I keep talking about because there's so many new shiny toys for either new heroes or older heroes that are just now coming to light. But people, I think, are going to disregard or maybe even forget the just insane crippling power that Azaelia can put you under if you don't just draw your hot cards before she does, which is like never going to happen because she just goes full burr. I think she's in A tier for sure. And if we're talking like today, before Dash IO gets her stuff, I do think that she's ahead of Dash IO.
Yeah.
But I think that Runeblade, like Viserai specifically, has always been a really tough matchup for her because she disrespects. She's kind of got that Zen mentality where she just doesn't interact with you. And I think as long as Vynnset and Viserai are doing Runeblade things, she's not going to be as good as them. So I don't agree that she'd sit at the top.
Okay, I actually disagree with both of you, and I believe that she is S tier. But both of you have outruled me as majority rules, and so she will sit at the top of A. I think she sits right here, and I don't actually think it's relatively close. I think she deserves this spot. But that being said, we shall see, because I do think what TCG Talk said is actually accurate, and this has shown true for the past few metas. If the meta coalesces in the right way, she is S tier. If certain things happen, then she goes down, and she goes down pretty quickly to almost not played at all. So maybe it is more, measured approach to put her in the A tier and just consider there. But for me, I would put her there personally. Next hero on the list is one that needs a lot of help, in my opinion. There's not a lot of reason to play this hero, and that is Bravo Showstopper. But hey, am I wrong in believing that, Breezy?
I like Bravo. I used to hate Bravo, but I actually like Bravo. I think that it's not time for him. It's just not his time. I don't think that he's going to be doing. If Enigma cared about poppers, then maybe, but he cannot go fast enough to handle Enigma, and can't present enough of his consistent threats while also deflecting the onslaught that aggro can put him down to. So I think that he's probably D tier. I just wouldn't play him. I just wouldn't play him, especially when heroes like Victor are just so much more viable and have more flexibility.
I think that's a very good point. What do you think, TCG Talk, on Bravo?
Yeah, I mean, Enigma's like, that might be one of the, that's as bad of auto loss as like Arachne Jeremiah. The hero just needs a lot of help, and like you're gonna have one Kale McCreef style player, right, that's gonna win the ProQuest on Bravo. It's gonna happen. So you'll have like one Bravo that wins it in obscure 8-person ProQuest nowhere. But other than that, like I don't think the hero, like Guardian in general, just needs a retooling. It's similar to how we saw Runeblade, right? We were like, how is Runeblade gonna get retooled? How is Brute going to get retooled? And Guardian's the next step for that. They need a different style to make it viable. Victor's like the next step, but it needs to keep going.
Yeah, I would put him here. Is that what y'all would agree on?
Yeah, he's above Betsy because he has better matchups than like Kayo and stuff. Like if you're going tit for tat with Betsy, he's better than Betsy, but still.
That's where I have him sitting as well, personally. But if we all agree on that front, we can move on to the final mech in the pool here, and that's the original, the first mech, Dash Inventor Extraordinaire. About, I think she's like, what, maybe 100 points away from Living Legend, something like that? She's about to make her way out.
Yeah, she's just under 100.
What do you think about her right now, TCG Talk?
I mean, she's just an A-tier hero. So she's really weird. She's an A tier hero in terms of power right now. The question is, how much will she be played? Right? Like, because she's going to have, in my opinion, a 2-week window because a lot of super competitive players are just going to switch to Dio if they love mech. I'm not saying guarantee, but I would anticipate that. So if she doesn't hit that living legend in the first 2 weeks of ProQuest, you could see her just hang around because people are playing especially people prepping for Worlds are probably going to be playing Dio. So as far as power level, I have to put her in the bottom of A. Like, I think if you put her any lower, you're just disservicing the hero. Because it's just a good, powerful deck, and those upgrades can help her if you want to be on the boost plan, right? Overall, I think she has to go in the bottom of A. I mean, she'll living legend in ProQuest season, though, in my opinion, for sure. I think.
What do you think, Breezy?
I agree, A for sure, but she's just time and time again proven to be like this very consistent hero against any and all metas because she just has the sideboard package built to be able to go, oh, it's this kind of matchup, cool, swamp, here we go, we're going to play this game now. Or, oh, I can go faster than you, cool, I'm going to boost you to death. And so I think for that she stays in A. And I'd honestly hope that people just play her for the reason to LL her in ProQuest, just to be like, I want to get my name on the leaderboard with her. I want to see her ride to victory, and then I can focus on Dash.io. So I hope more people play her going into this meta because I think she deserves a nice, friendly farewell,
send off,
and not to just sit there and like cook like Briar did for 8 years.
See, she to me is a real puzzle for this meta because one, she could stick around and just be part of it the whole time. But I almost feel like her indecision of playing one way or the other, if you're playing that sort of mid-range, like swap game plan where you can really pivot between one game plan and the other, almost just does her a disservice. I don't know if I would rather be playing her or Maxx in that situation.
Yeah, I could see her going in B just because of the other Maxx.
Right.
Like, not because, like I said, power level, she's A. But representation and why are you playing this deck? Yeah, you could see her easily going B. I could agree with
this
that.
Is where this is where after I thought a lot about her yesterday, as I was thinking about this, I really kind of sat her here because I didn't know if I could ever. Well, I'm never going to play her over Dio if I'm trying to win.
Yeah, agreed.
And then for those that asked in chat, yes, we have Dio sitting here for the time being until she receives the cards that she will get in her armory deck, in which case she, in my opinion, becomes probably the best deck in the format. But
yeah, the whole tier list changes post armory deck, so you can't really do it that way too much.
Yeah, it makes it a little weirder, right? But then again, we're also kind of saying the same thing about how Enigma could drift downward, and I do believe that to be the case going forward. I just can't see if a world where I would rather play her over Maxx, but maybe I would, and maybe I would do this. So I don't know. They both sit on the precipice. Do y'all have an opinion on whether or not it should be here or up there?
I would put Maxx in A solely because I think Rosetta hero representation, whether they're good or bad, is going to be higher, and Maxx does better into all those, well, not all, the Earth mid-range heroes. So I think Max's matchup spread might be a little bit, and he can also just boost into like Aurora. So I think Maxx has a slightly better matchup spread.
I'm going to leave her there, and then we can go on to the next one, which is an interesting one as well because this one just won a Pro Tour. Spoiler alert, it's Azuri. How do we feel about Azuri currently, TCG Talk?
She's very similar to Axe's Dory. If you can say Enigma's not real, then you are doing really good. No, I think her Enigma matchup is rough. It's not rough at the ProQuest level. It's rough at the highest level. I think it's like really, really, really bad. But you can put some tools in there to make it a little bit better. But if you can avoid Enigma, I think she has a really good matchup spread. Uzuri is always going to be like a strict counter deck. And I think once, again, we have a lot of like once this happens, but once the Dash.io deck comes out and the meta might speed up a little bit and we start seeing really defining, like going into Worlds, what decks are people planning for, that's where Uzuri can really shine because she has a whole shelf of disruptive tools that she picks out like a grocery store. So she can just go for it, you know what I mean? And I think also in this meta, her biggest weakness usually was Arcane other than Illusionist. And unless you have a random Verdance that's crazy with Surge and Aethertide, I actually don't think you're going to need more than AB1 ever. I think you just do like AB1, maybe Spell Void in your sideboard if you really care. But really it's just AB1, which just helps her because it helps free up slots for her in the sideboard.
So where do you have her right now?
I put her in like below Dash, probably, and above Dory is where I would have her right now.
Okay. What do you think?
She's good with polarizing.
What do you think, Breezy?
Yeah, she's just not the best assassin at the moment. So, I mean, I agree with everything Dylan said and why. I think that she's always going to be that hero that like kind of sneaks out of the woods when the meta is kind of like confused, which would be, and you would think would be a good time for her now, but there's just so many new things that are doing more powerful things than she's currently doing. And I know that the contract thing is very disruptive and you can kind of go the long game and just wrap it up, but I don't see that being kind of the strategy moving into this coming meta. So I think she would probably sit. Let's see this tier list again. Let me visualize this. I'm actually gonna put her below Dory. I think that Dory does similar things but more consistently without having to worry about what she just does. She just has less to worry about. Like Dory Hatchet's Dory can just like do the thing and doesn't have to worry about, oh, you dodged my gotcha moment. I think Dory's gotcha moments just hurt more.
I would actually argue that she should maybe be back here. And part of the reason is there's just an assassin that I would rather play, I think. And the other part, but I think they are fundamentally different. They do different things, and she does have different strengths compared to something like New. But at the same time, looking at her matchup into something like an Enigma, I don't know where she really finds the edge there. I guess perhaps it depends on how the Enigmas are built. But to me, that just feels very uncomfortable. And so I would put her perhaps back there because I think I would rather play Prism into Enigma than I would Azuri into Enigma. But I will say I have far less experience from the Azuri standpoint. So if there's an Azuri main in the chat, let me know how you feel about that versus Enigma. Are you okay with this placement, TCG Talk?
Yeah, I'm okay with the placement. Yeah, I think my final word is like it depends on like what 2 to 3 decks going into Worlds are most viable. If we're going into Worlds and people are saying Dio and like someone else is better, then I'm all on board for Uziri over New because I think Uziri has better target disruption into aggro decks.
Yeah.
But if it seems somewhat similar, then yeah, I agree. So yeah, I'm fine with. I mean, she's in B regardless, so where she stays, I'm not too worried about.
Okay, we'll sandwich her right here. She'll be right stuck in the middle between those two. Onward and upward to everyone's favorite assassin, which is, Arachne Huntsman. Everyone's favorite assassin. Isn't that right?
Breezy, you joke, but they have a cult following.
Yeah. What a legend. This is triple S plus tiered. You lose if I present this hero.
Done. All right. Let's moving that into place. There it is. Onward we go.
Yeah. No, I would say don't play this hero, unfortunately. Well, I'm going to put him at the bottom. No, I'm going to say don't play this hero. I'm going to say don't. Yeah. I shouldn't be nice. Just don't play him. It's just fine.
Really
just
not expanding on the placement of Arachne Huntsman. I see. Okay, well, TCG Talk, do you have a reason as to where they should fall?
I mean, obviously biased. I would put them at the bottom of Armory, just so people will play the hero more because I think the hero's super fun. But if we're talking like strict competitive, yeah, it's in the top of the don't play. Like all jokes aside, I do think the hero is better than Bravo, better than Betsy, and better than Teklo. I would rather be playing Arachne over any of those heroes because Arachne, at least, if you can avoid Enigma, you and you're very skilled with the hero, you can get to deterministic win a little bit better, in my opinion. And you're just better into some of the aggro decks like Dio and Azaelia. Yeah, I'd rather be playing Arachne than any of those heroes in D tier. So I would put them at the top of D.
I would agree. I think they fall right there. Somewhere in this. I don't know if I would take any of these here. Maybe Phi. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Never in a million years, which is so crazy to think that Phi's, fallen that far from grace back when Phi exploded onto the scene and did crazy things. And yet, that is not the case. Okay, up next is a hero that I'm very curious to hear your take on. Because I feel like this is one of those heroes that really decides like what kind of a player you are. and I'm just going to use this picture because I think it's beautiful. Levia.
He's gonna bring up Kano.
No, we're on to Levia, and I picked Levia Redeemed because I think that art is incredible. But maybe if I make like Levia stands angry, I'll just use the normal one. But Levia, how are we feeling about Levia into this meta?
I think that she's really good, and I'm gonna just allow Ethan to have his moment and think that the Grave Digger monster truck card is cool and does cool things. I'll give. I don't know. I don't touch the cards. I don't play this hero. But yeah, no, she's always been really powerful. I mean, I've got smoked by many a lot Levia. I just don't know. It's very meta dependent. I don't think that she's got as much game as Kayo, and so I wouldn't play her over Kayo, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So I'm gonna put her, simply put, since my time is up, I'm gonna put her in B tier.
Whoa, okay, B tier. There it is. All right, what do you think, TCG Talk?
Yeah, she's B tier in my opinion. So like first off, everyone says this on every content piece ever, and I agree. If Ethan was not allowed, if Ethan decided to play tournaments, this hero might be living legend by now. But if it's not Ethan, like this hero is even more complicated to play now because you don't have the bailout of Art of War. When you gotta banish, or the power turn of Art of War. You don't have the Slithering Shadowpeed interaction unless you get off like Shadow Realm Horror. Call of the Grave is a very good card, although I think that card's simply just a thematic ode to the fact that we're going to get Necromancer in the next year. But with Art of War gone, it makes a complicated hero even more complicated. You have to be even more patient now, even more like deliberate with your moves. And because of that, even though the power level of the hero is an A, I think the hero is going to end up being like bottom of B tier because that hero is going to be so difficult to play, and only like true Levia enthusiasts are going to play this hero right now with Kayo coming back into the limelight. So I would put her below Prism, not because of where her power level is, but because of representation and difficulty of play. It's just too hard.
Interesting. I think you're both wrong. I think she's a C tier hero. No, I'm just kidding. No, I will be honest. I actually do think that she's in a great spot. I think losing, quote unquote, losing Art of War is actually perhaps a benefit to her because I think the meta loses Art of War, and that makes like these crazy just go aggro, go wide decks neutered just by a little bit, and her actual value can shine. Her value has always been playing like above rate cards at the cost of she could die to herself. And so the difficulty is obviously not dying to yourself, but now she can play above rate cards for more turns without having to worry about your opponent putting you on a clock nearly as fast. So I actually had, I don't know where I would have put her in here. I probably had her around maybe Vynnset. But if we're going B tier, then B tier it is because I am being outruled by the majority. Where are you putting her?
I put her in B. I put her behind Prism.
Yeah, I'd say yeah. Honestly, yeah. It's either that or sandwich between her and Viserai.
And it has nothing to do with power level. It's literally just representation. Yeah.
I'd rather play Prism. But that's just me.
I'd rather be playing Prism.
I don't know. I think if I had to face down a Kayo, or if I had to face down an Enigma, I think I would rather take Levia. I mean, it's a very hard deck to play, but then again, I feel like this just auto loses to Kayo in a lot of well, maybe not. Maybe it doesn't auto lose to Kayo, especially because you can just say no to all their stuff by taking away their poppers, the few poppers that they have. I don't know. It's a really interesting question, but if we're sandwiching that there, I would personally put her in A. Nevertheless, the next hero I'm excited to hear about because it's another hero I very fortunately got to spoil, and that's none other than Riptide. Riptide, where are we putting the tide right now? TCG Talk.
Give me my hot take button of the night.
Let's go.
So this year I'm putting in A. I don't care what anybody tells me. This year is only held back by the fact that people don't play it. Talisha Day is not everything, but we only have what day we have. There are two heroes that have a positive win rate into KO, Enigma, and Dash.io. And one of them is Dash.io if you count like the 50-50, and the other one is Riptide. Aggro Riptide at a high level, you have to play perfectly to still be Enigma, right? Really talented Enigmas will give you trouble. But at the ProQuest level, Aggro Riptide gives Enigma fits. It's good into KO, and it gives Dash.io fits. It's similar to Uzeria, where you can package in target disruption. You now have the ability to run the arms, and even if you're on an aggro list, you still can run Stone Rain and be able to give that dominate when you need to in order to close out games. Line it up is really good. You're allowed to play Murky Wider in the sideboard now and actually be able to bring it in, and its full text is there. I would put Riptide not at the top of A, but I would put it above Vynnset and Maxx and probably below Victor right now is where I would, and we'll see what Breezy says, but I would use my hot take button to put Riptide in A.
Okay, what do you think?
Dude, use the hot take button. What am I gonna do?
Still give your opinion. I'm curious to see what you would say.
No, I mean, I think that he's just like, because he's got such a cult following and is still like getting slid these new tools, like kind of somewhat under the rug, that people aren't expecting him. And then this is still a hero that even I don't face often enough that when I do, it's like mid game and I'm like, I got this. And then by late game, I'm like, oh my God, I might lose all of a sudden because his tools are just so disruptive. And then if your plan is to like, if Enigma does fall and we start to move into like a longer kind of more mid-rangey game, like just running Dreadbore and saying, no, you can't use like a large portion of your cards that you thought you were going to stay alive with. I would agree. I'd agree. It hurts me to say that he's above Vynnset, but hey, the hot take.
Hot take button used. There it is. Boom. Windmill slam. Hot take. I actually wouldn't have disagreed. I actually thought Riptide's in a fine spot, and partially because I feel like he can do some stuff here. Though I will say, if we move into a different type of build for Enigma, then maybe the reaction heavy style, like the defense reaction heavy style, isn't as effective. But if you're playing aggressively, doesn't matter how many or how few wards they build, because you're trying to pull them off the board anyway. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know. We'll see how he goes. But I actually like him right now. I've liked him even in the last meta. It's just that Zen was too difficult, A hero that has never really gotten his due. Can you guess which one?
Hey, no.
Viserai.
It's Rhinar.
Oh no.
Rhinar right now.
Or Rhinar.
Breezy. Tell us the bad news.
Yeah, I'm not going to say don't play him. I think that Intimidate is just a really cool mechanic. I think there's a lot of people that hate it, and I love it. I think it's a really fun mechanic. It's fair, and you can't do anything about it. You get it. You get taken intimidated, and you're just like, okay, I guess I lose my cards. I think because of that, it's really fun. But I don't think that he's better than Levia, and I don't think that he's better than Kayo. I would put him in like meta or armory viable. That's where I'm going to put him. I don't think he's trash. I don't think he's trash at all. I think he's C tier 100%. Above Zen.
Above Zen. Okay, so also above Kassai and Boltyn. You think you'd rather run him than either of those heroes?
Yeah, man.
All right. What do you think, TCG Talk?
I would put... Okay, I won't do that first. So Rhinar's in a cool spot where I think the hero's starting to actually move to the way. So all the Rhinars you've ever seen have spiked big events, right? Even at Worlds, the ones that got just outside top 8, they all were running these mid-range, patient, almost like club style list builds, right? Like they did have claws, but that's how the hero was played. And almost every time you've seen the hero do well, that's where it's went. And I think that's where the hero is still going now, even with the new tools, like with the Arsenal Disruption and stuff. And so in the current meta, Rhinar is definitely like a high C at best, if to mid C. But if Enigma somehow gets taken away and we go to this mid-rangey Rosetta meta, Rhinar starts to become really actually viable. I would say high B, because he can intimidate away the value cards that Earth is trying to do, so on and so forth. But in the current meta, yeah, he's at the top of C. I put him above Zen. I think Rhinar mains that know how to play the deck will be able to navigate a lot of the mid-rangey matchups, and then just hope that they dodge either Dash.io and she comes out. The Enigma matchup's really not even that terrible, because Enigma has to make a decision every turn that Rhinar decides to intimidate if she wants to play her ward out or not. So, I think it's a fine armory deck right now. I just don't know how you make this hero better without breaking it, because Intimidate is such an insane mechanic that if you make it too good, it's going to ruin the game.
I don't know how to feel about Rhinar right now. I think maybe I don't know how to feel about Rhinar in general, because I just feel like he's never really had that moment where it's been like, this is his time. I think maybe it's just because of the way he functions off of Intimidate, that it's very fair in a way, even though you're taking away cards that, takes away their ability to choose how to block. It's just never really felt like he's come out and just hit the ground running into a meta that he just is favored into. And so I don't know if it doesn't feel like that's this meta we're about to go into. So for me, I'm just like, why play him?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Oh yeah, he's definitely like an enthusiast. Like, you just love the hero.
I don't know. Sure. I don't know why to play him. But
funsies.
But I don't know if that deserves the don't play tier. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I sit just in this awkward spot with him. So I'm not sure where he'll fall personally. But a hero I kind of have some inclinations towards and some feelings towards is none other than Nu, who I think is actually going to be doing some things depending on how the meta shakes up and shakes out. What do you think about Nu, TCG Talk?
Yeah, I think early. So the deck is very similar to Victor, where like if you don't know how to play your deck into that deck, she will eat you alive, literally. But early on, if we're talking strict, like decent to high level competitive play, I think she's actually in a bad spot in the first 2 weeks of Progress season. Her Enigma matchup is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Her Kayo matchup, honestly, is 50-50. It's really close because, yes, she disrupts, but if she doesn't find it, she can't like keep up with Kayo. And once she gets so far behind, Kayo just doesn't care anymore. Dash IO, I think, is going to be similar. She has very good matchups in her Rune Blades. So if Rune Blades good early on, then I think that could be an issue for her or help her out. So it's really hard. Her natural power level, like she's like the opposite of some heroes, where some heroes have to prove their way up. She has to prove her way down. So I still would put her in A. I probably would put her currently in front of Dash IO behind Azaelia. But I could easily see this hero quickly going down to B, which is good but polarizing. Because if Enigma stays at the top of the meta, I don't want to play Nu at a big tournament. If Enigma is like 25 to 30% of a calling, I don't want to be playing Nu. So that's kind of where I see it.
What do you think, Breezy?
Yeah, I'm gonna say high B. I'm just gonna come right out and say it. I think that if the meta stays exactly the same, Assassin's in just a weird spot. Like, she's got so much disruption and so many like, haha, gotcha tools that like she can have a lot of scary turns. But if you just play your game plan better than she can, she just kind of doesn't get a chance to do her thing. And there's a handful of heroes that can do their thing before she can. And also disruption used to be the name of her game, and it seems like they're spreading that fairly lately, so we can cause.
Oh, you mean uninteractable disruption? Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm gonna say she's above Dash. I'm gonna say she's like high B tier.
Okay. I actually feel like she's doing okay. The only and the biggest issue is her Enigma matchup. If the ward is just all over the board, I think that she falls far. I think she falls way far. But then again, I think that's the same thing for Azuri. I view these heroes just neck and neck personally, like sitting near each other, because into a meta that is a lot more sort of even keel without these very polarizing, unfair type, just play a board of wards and win the game, I think she still does very well. I think she feels very comfortable in all of her disruption tools into a wide variety of what we're seeing here towards the top. It's just the fact that she can just get completely hated out by a hero that just doesn't really let her play out the game. And that's why I'm really kind of iffy on her position as well. I'll side with y'all and go B, though. I feel pretty comfortable about that. And I do think she moves, and this is very much in flux, depending on how this hero right here moves, Enigma, on the docket. So
I will say one thing not related to the tier list, just adding on. The two matchups that she has a lot of game into period over a Uziri that really makes a difference, in my opinion, is one, Victor. Viseri's not bad in the Victor. It's just Nu's a lot better, like a lot better. And then if he gets better, Maxx. She has a lot better game in the Maxx because of just being able to get rid of those mechs a lot better. Yeah. Whereas Maxx can kind of play to an end game with Viseri a little bit cleaner than he can against Nu. But other than that, yeah, I agree.
Okay, I've saved the last few heroes for us. They are the Rosetta heroes, and they are several of the heroes that we very much enjoy. Starting with Katsu, who's just in a bit of a rough spot. Is that correct, TCG Talk?
Yeah, Katsu's in a bad spot. I think Katsu's armory viable, and I'm not saying that. I'm truly not saying that out of bias. I think, like, if you look at what's in D right now, I think Katsu's still better than all of those heroes. I think if Katsu wants to be viable without going on my soapbox, he has to go back to, like, the even bigger than that build with Snapdragon scalers and really try to get value off, like, Snatch and E-Strike and stuff like that until he gets better combo pieces. You probably even actually go back to the leg tap line and just try to get breakpoint value attacks as much as you can. The Enigma matchup is atrocious, though. It's awful. It's so bad. But a skilled pilot will still do decent in the other stuff. He's at the bottom of armory viable. I think he's not as good as like Kassai or Boltyn. I'd rather be playing both of them, but I don't think he's as bad as all of those heroes you see in D tier, in my opinion.
Any thoughts on that, Breezy?
I would just don't even play him.
You would move him down to the D tier?
Nah, dude. There's just no reason to play him until you get like Bonds and that whole line back.
Yeah, I guess if you're playing Zim,
you could play Turtle Katsu, I guess.
Yeah, if you want to play a ninja, like he's not as good as Zim, but he's like almost on level of like, why does it matter anymore? Plays in. Yeah. I guess you're right. If we're doing it based off how this tier list is, then don't play. I just don't think he's on the power level of those heroes.
I'd rather play Arachne.
I would put him here. You'd rather play
I would agree with you. I agree with you. I'd rather play Arachne too.
I'll move him down. Okay. Maybe in the same spot. Who knows? We'll have to ask. Is this I don't know if y'all have seen this guy before. He's like purple, and his name is Viserai. Take it away,
Dude.
Breezy.
What a horrible hero. This dude's incredible now. I mean, I've never stopped playing him, and I've always seen his potential, and now just getting a little bit of support, it just makes him so, you have to respect him now. The rune chant damage consistency is, I mean, it's free damage. You just play the game and you get free damage that now has to be interacted with, because now we have, if you've dealt arcane damage, do these horrible things to you. Because of that, people are going to take a little bit of time before they start to respect him. He's definitely more, this is bias, and I'm going to let it speak because I'm on the screen and the people in chat aren't.
There it is.
You might disagree with me, but I think he's better poised than Vynnset. There's a lot of people that disagree, even you, Steven. But
do I?
I don't know. Maybe, but I think that he's above Riptide. I think he's above Vynnset. I think that he's right there next to Victor.
Okay, which side?
I think I'm gonna put him above Victor because you gave me the choice.
Okay. I mean, this is your hero, man. So I think
he's great.
You should have.
I'm not gonna say he's busted. I'm not saying he's busted, but you can't, Dylan.
Thoughts?
This is like the most controversial hero. It's like, obviously everyone's doing their tier list for fun, and I love watching other people's takes. And like, I've seen Viserai anywhere from like bottom of A to like bottom of C. It's so funny how people are viewing this hero right now, and I think that that's actually a testament to what's going to make the hero maybe struggle lightly a little bit early, but then end up being really good. Is like, no one knows what build to play right now. Like if I ask Breezy what build, like, are you playing Nebula Blade? Are you playing you know what I mean? Like everyone's playing something a little bit different right now. I think my personal opinion is the Nebula Blade build is pretty broken with like Snuff Out and Consuming Volition, and like you can just have this crazy cost curve now with like attacks that matter. But yeah, I think the hero is good. I probably would put the hero in B until it's one of those heroes that's really weird because matchup for matchup, I have it over Vynnset. I think it's better than Vynnset. But the hero's been bad for so long that I can't put it in A, and that sounds horrible. I'll put it at the bottom of A. I'd put it behind Maxx. Like, I think Vynnset's going to be better early on in today's meta because the deck doesn't have to change as much with the new cards, whereas Viserai, it's going to take a minute for people to figure out how to play this deck.
This makes me so happy. This is pure content right here, just watching just the pained expressions flash over Breezy's face. If you wanted my true opinion, I would probably put him here, right next to it. Right.
I think Viserai is better than Set. I just don't. I think it's going to take people a while to figure it out.
I think he could be. I definitely think he could be. I just think that she does the thing so much faster and immediately, whereas he might need the time to get there and just run it out there. But I could be wrong, and you know more than I do because you've been playing the hero since the beginning. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put it where Breezy. You said right here.
That's fine. Yeah, you can leave it.
Or did you say
I had it? I had it above Victor, but if we want to meet somewhere in the middle, I'd still.
All right, let's meet in the middle.
Hey man.
I will say this:
consistency is key.
I would rather play Viserai with Runechant creation into Enigma than Victor. I feel like I'd rather play a Runeblade in this meta if Enigma is truly at the top of the heap. If
you're going long game,
if Ward's a thing, I would rather play Viserai.
Yeah, if I'm sitting down at like a 15 game tournament, I'm playing Viserai. I'm playing Viserai all day. There's just more consistency and more like less high roll. Like I gotta hit that high roll. Like you just do that.
Victor beats Viserai though.
I think Victor is consistent. I just think like if I'm specifically looking to target Enigma, then playing a Runeblade makes sense to me. That makes sense.
I agree with that.
Sorry, I was contrasting Viserai versus Vynnset.
Right. Gotcha.
Considering Vynnset, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Now we have to talk about something that probably no one expected, and I honestly can't even put up the image for. I don't. Oh, yes, I can. Hey.
Nice.
Look who we're getting. Look, I'm just going to throw her on there because she exists now. TCG Talk, the best ninja in the format. Tell us about her.
Oh, she is the best ninja in the format. This hero is going to... So this hero is going to be good. It's not going to be... This deck... I gotta slow down. Because of this hero's simplistic ability, it will never be like this polarizing S tier deck. But this deck will always be an A tier deck, in my opinion. Always. Like the value, Kadachi for 1, CNC for 7 will always be good. It's just gonna be that way. It doesn't matter. And so I would put this hero, like if we can forward project, I would put this hero at the top of A. And that's not biased. Legitimately, I would put this hero either probably, like if we're doing current power levels today, probably like right behind Azaelia. But this hero is going to just constantly tick people off when she comes out. I don't think people who haven't played a lot of Blitz know how good this hero is over a game. Like I've fatigued victors already with this hero. And like, it's just, she can do so many different things. The Enigma matchup, if she's still around when November comes, isn't even that bad. You can tech your list to be better into Enigma. You can run Shuko on the side. You can play more aggressive blues to trigger Shuko, all that stuff. Like she has ways that she can play into pretty much everyone. And +1, I mean, think about it. Kayo gets a might almost every turn, right? Like this hero gets an unconditional might every turn. So it's just, I think the hero's going to be super sweet when she comes out. I'm super excited to play her.
Breezy, do you have any arguments against Ira?
No. Ira's incredible. Ira's like top A. I think she's gonna be. I love her, but she's super annoying. I mean, she's just like talk about consistency, dude. You just like keep 2 cards, do a thing, pass. Next time I'll do it again. Like it's just so easy. And honestly, I think that CC needed a hero that was just like, let's take it back to basics and still prove that this level of consistency and power is just still so viable. You don't have to do like all the circus tricks to just be good, and that's what she's proving. So yeah, I'd still put her at top A.
That's spicy. Would you put her over Dash.io?
I tested this matchup. Obviously, it's like 1 week of testing, but it's either dangerously close or I just fatigued them.
All right, so this is the interesting part about this way we're doing this tier list, because this hero I think will be up here when this hero releases.
Yeah.
So it makes this like kind of nebulous zone that we're in right now. But I'll leave it. I guess I'll leave it right here. I think I'm going to leave it right here. I think
you can leave it right there. I think she's just an A in general. Where she is in that, who knows? But she's always going to be a perennial, like just good hero.
Okay. Yep. Here we go. Here we go. What do we think? What are we thinking about Kano, Breezy?
There's no points. You don't have to lie. Just kidding.
Yeah, I have never played a game in my life as Kano, but I've been melted by hundreds. And knowing what I know based on that statement,
There's that many Kano players?
I don't know. It's just Steven doing it. I don't know why it's doing this.
I didn't do that.
It's just Steven melting me. Based on that, I don't think that Kano is gassy anymore. I think his flame is becoming snuffed more and more. I mean, he just can't dig quite as fast, and that's the whole point, is to like stack and dig and hurry up and win. And you can't give him time. I mean, he doesn't need time. He needs to hurry up and burn through his deck and like find the combo wombo, and now he just has to take forever to do it, and heroes can just win in that time. So I'm gonna put him at I think he's, oh god. I'm not gonna say don't play him. I'm gonna put him, I think I put him at the bottom of C tier.
Okay. All right. What do you think, TCG Talk?
What do I gotta do to get an honorary second hot take button? No, this hero, this is not to appease Armada. This is me being serious. I think this hero is like at mid B. Like, I think this hero losing the tomes ruins your stack plan, right? It doesn't ruin it, but it makes it way slower. So you actually have to like stack like you would normally. And into Enigma, that makes that matchup awful. But into everything else, you can still stack. It's just going to take you, 4 turns longer to do it. It hurts that, and then it hurts your out of nowhere, flip the tome off the top I1 plays. But when you're doing that, you're already kind of screwed anyway. Like, you're just hoping to God you draw the right card most of the time. I think the hero is still good. I would put the hero like in between Viserai and Dorinthea. The hero still, the tempo plan did not change. It slowed down like 1 turn, like when you draw like the turn 1 tome with whatever. But I think the hero can still blow people up out of nowhere. And like Kano is in every single format he spikes up, what's going to happen is people are going to run AB2, AB3 when Rosetta first comes out because people are scared of Arcane. And then what they're going to do is they're going to go back to AB1. And then you're going to have a Kano who avoids Enigma and wins an event because
I think I'm going to interrupt. I think you're both wrong. This hero is top of B, bottom of A. And I think everybody is wrong about where Kano is because no one is actually playing him because everyone is dooming about the fact that he's dead. I think everyone's wrong. I don't think you stack. I think stacking is not the point. I think you play him as tempo and you play the cards that basically let him do the same thing that he was just doing. He was good in tempo already, and the tomes literally just made him like they were win more cards. They won you the game faster. If you found one, you just oops, I won the game. You take that away, now he plays the same tempo game that he was playing before. He just does it like he did like 3 metas ago, where he favors putting out like 2 potions and then just kills you because you're not respecting him. And people taking out Oasis, people taking out AB3 is just pure gas for him. I think everybody that thinks that he's dead is just so off base that they haven't tried it, haven't looked at lists, or haven't tested it. It's completely nonsensical.
No, I
he
agree.
Deserves to be here or here. And I would argue that he could honestly, because of the way he plays into this field right here, he could probably be around this area.
I do agree with you. People take out Oasis because that's everybody's thing right now. Is like they're like, oh, he just loses to Oasis. I'm like, yeah. When people are actually packing Oasis, go look at the last 50 decks made on Fabric right now. Tell me how many times you see Oasis in the sideboard. Dude. You don't, unless it's the Count Your Blessings meme decks. You don't see Oasis in the sideboard. So, yeah, dude, I agree.
Kano's still freaking good. You can't stack win against double Oasis now. So what do? You don't stack. I mean, that's a really simple thing. You literally don't stack. Stop trying it. It's not the point anymore. Now you just play him tempo like he was doing fine, just like he was before.
And to our point, Martin, who's playing Oasis in their deck right now? Not very many people.
Yeah, feel free to play double Oasis, and you can draw into that, and then he can still play out his normal game plan and just chip you down, and make you hold Oasis. That's totally fine because he's going to fire off faster, and it becomes a little bit more fragile with the idea of like, okay, well, they're going to have to hold on to an Oasis if they find it, or they're just going to, lose the game because I'm going to try to find my thing first. So it becomes this back and forth thing. But I think you're not stacking. I think you're not playing the slow game, and I think you're playing tempo. And I think it still freaking works. and it all works because of Open the Floodgates. That card is gross, and it works like crazy. You don't have to even snap back. You don't need to. It's not necessary. You can just play him out the normal way. He draws the same card off Kindle like he did last meta. That has not changed. You can still play Wildfire for 7. That has not changed. The only things that's changed is you finding the tome in the middle of the combo. That's literally it. So anyone that's on stat Kano is crying, and everybody else that was playing tempo Kano is like, cool, now I just add this card that deals damage that I have to pay 2 for, which sucks, but okay. That deals damage and draws me 2 cards like it was a tome. So it's like
a blue that gives you an E-pot.
Which actually that card kind of sucks in comparison to the 2 cost that can draw me 2 cards and draw me 2 blues and let me Kano some more. So yeah, I've been playing him for the past week, and it's basically the same. Which is absolutely just mind-boggling to me that the people are dooming so hard on him. So there's my hot take button. You're welcome. Now let's talk about the last 4 heroes, as I waxed poetic for far too long. Starting with Florian. Florian himself, I think this is perhaps the hero most people have kind of gravitated towards, at the very least because of Sealed. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Florian is probably the most, alongside maybe Aurora, is like the most figured out, if you air quotes that, right? Where it's like you obviously can see what you want to do with this deck, right? When people look at Verdance, and especially Azaelia, Rip, we'll talk about that in a second, you're like, what do I do with this hero? Whereas Florian, it's like, okay, I'm just going to play good Runeblade stuff, and I'm going to add in uninteractable disruption with Felling Crown and Plow Under. So I think the hero is very good. I still think the Enigma matchup's a very interesting puzzle to solve, because you have to run enough arcane to like make that work, right? You can't just run like good value stuff until you get your hero ability online. But I definitely think it's the best hero out of Rosetta, in my opinion. And I think out the gate, you could easily argue putting the hero in bottom of A, just because of the hero's natural ability. I think there's a lot of good decks right now. It's just like, what's their game plan to Enigma? But I would probably put him at the bottom of A.
What do you think, Breezy, on this one?
I'd agree. I'd put him in A. I think that just as long as he can find a foothold. Right now, there's just so many people trying so many different things, but he's ultimately, I mean, he can OTK, and that's an amazing strategy if you give him the time. So in a world where like you can do that, if Enigma kind of shifts around and you can kind of play that slow game, I think he's the premier OTK deck, because he's got the life gain. He can just churn through his banish zone and decompose and just make tons of rune chance. But yeah, so I'd agree. I'd probably put him at the bottom of A or top of B. But I think just as it stands today, with certain uncertainties, you could argue A.
Yeah, I would put him in A tier as well. Now, this is, I think, the one that most people are still head scratching on, and that is Verdance, because I think Verdance has some crazy things that she can do, but people are still like trying to figure out to what end. What do you think, Breezy?
Yeah, I think this hero is like, I want to say she's like not as complex as people are trying to make her, because she has possibilities for like really, really, like you said, intricate things. But I think on the surface, she just wants to stay alive and ping you constantly. But she does have access to Storm Striders, so then when you just get to a certain threshold, you just kind of crumble to it. If you play that style, I don't know. I've actually never really played Verdance, so little do I know about that whole like combo wombo, if she can do certain things like that. But I think that I've off of my small games that I've played into her, where she's not won one game against Viserai. Again, these are Talishar games, people, not the not the top 8. I'm gonna say she's in. I'm gonna put her like mid B. I'm gonna put her below Dash.
Okay. What do you think, TCG Talk?
She's such an interesting deck, I think, and I'm on Breezy's sentiment here. Like, I'm not a world top 8 player, right? So, but it's like, from my perspective, what she looks like is people are trying to take her in 2 main different directions. Like, people are running the Surgent Ether-type build with big spells in the combo, but they're also trying to do like this crappy Guardian where they're trying to just do high value stuff. And I think you have to lean in one or the other. And like, there's some play pattern issues where I think people are pitching into the weapon a little bit too much, right? If you're going to do that, just play Waymoon. All these little intricacies that people need to figure out. But once people figure it out, I do think the deck is very good. It does have a deterministic combo into some decks. Like Poison the Well is not a silver bullet card into that combo if they're playing it correctly. I think she can do a lot of damage. I'd honestly, like looking at this list now, I'd probably put her. I would shift Maxx to the end of A, and I would put Florian and then Verdance right after Florian. Because I think once the hero gets figured out, the Enigma matchup is a little crappy, but for at least from the few games I've played. But all the other heroes, like you have game into, and I think that hero is just like Icelander, which is funny because she plays similar, where it's like it's going to get better by the month. Like every month, that deck is going to get more and more refined. You're going to see someone come out with like a Bullander style version of whatever that looks like, and the hero's all of a sudden going to be like
where are you
in the
placing
prime. Behind Florian. I put right behind Florian. I think Florian's better initially.
I'll put her here so that we don't run off the thing.
That's fine.
I don't know. I'm pretty down on her as of right now, but I think the reason that I'm down on her is because everyone's just trying to play the value soup version of her and just throwing a bunch of random crap in there. And I think I think that's just wrong. I think it's far better to play her specifically towards one way or the other. And I played this was the first hero coming back from Tampa Bay. This was the first hero that I put together and started just jamming games in Talishar with. And I think there's a lot of players, and myself included at first, that were just like, I guess we just play the value stuff. And I just don't think that there's any way to win if you're doing that. She just doesn't have an identity. So for me, if people are playing that, I had her in C tier. I think she'd be fine in that. But I think if you pick a lane and you just run it out there, I think she can actually do some pretty nutty stuff. And I don't necessarily believe that it's off of the back of like just the healing combo. But maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe people are just going to run out the crazy amounts of healing and just jam it that way. So if y'all want to sit around that A to B tier, then we will go ahead and do that. And we're down to the last two, and they're lightning heroes, and one of them is Aurora. Aurora is in a pretty interesting spot, being yet another rune blade. So I want to start here.
Hi. Yeah, no, I think I didn't know where you're going with that. I think that Aurora is all the best things about Cheerios Briar with like even more gas, to be honest with you. I think that she's got so much potential, and there's obviously some combo wombo, like you just lose if I draw this card kind of things happening. Because of that, her instance and her no blockers, she's just prone to taking so much damage. So I think you can outrace her. I think she's a very fast hero if you give her the time to set up. But other than that, I don't think that she's just like much higher than even Dash.io right now. So I would probably put her somewhere. I think she's A tier. I think currently, like right now, people figured her out. I think I'm gonna put her like. I'll probably put her somewhere in the Riptide Viserai range.
Okay. What do you think on Aurora? TCG Talk.
I think this year is like the most built out year. I would put this year at the top of A currently. I would put actually potentially above Azaelia or right below Azaelia. I think this hero does some really dumb stuff. Arc Lightning is a screwed up card when used properly, especially like Channel Lightning Valley.
Yep.
Like you can even run like the I don't care. I'm just gonna run Mark of Lightning as my arms and guarantee that card draw and just keep going. And the difference between her and Azaelia, which we'll talk about in a second, is like she can actually pitch into her ability to keep Lightning Valley on the field, and then you just get. I think she is a very, very good aggro deck. I think she's what Lightning Briar should have been before the bans, right? So I would put her below Azaelia. I think she's going to be, before the Dio upgrades, I think she is the best aggro deck, personally. I think she can do a lot of really powerful things, and she also can play to certain combos. So, yeah, I would put her right there. Yeah, right below Azaelia. That's where I put her.
Interesting. I have her as probably the best aggro deck in the format, but I don't know how high I am on her overall, and I do think that she gets passed up. I personally, I still struggle. I think Azaelia needs to be here, but I would say that she's quite strong and just like right on the board. Boom, done. Run it out there. She could just play it out there. And finally, that leaves perhaps everyone's favorite hero. No, that can't be everyone's favorite hero. But there's so many people I've watched and kind of seen commenting on how much they've enjoyed Azaelia. And I've been playing two heroes for the past week, and I've played a lot of games in both of them, and that's Kano and Azaelia. So I have some opinions. What do you think, TCG Talk?
Oh, this hero. This, like we've said before, other people have said it on various platforms. This hero was made in a world where Tome of Aetherwind and Tome of Fiendal were legal, and that's just how it is. However, all that being said, this hero has to go in Armory viable because I think the hero is not very good. It does some very powerful things. When you let it do its thing, it can just run you over. And we've talked also where I think people are running a little bit too much attacks and it needs to go more of a spell heavy list, or not heavy, but more spell with eclectic. Is that how I say it? Eclectic magnetism, and run like eclectic magnetism into a 2-cost spell, and all of a sudden you're doing like 3-card 11s, and you're starting to get overrate. I think people are focusing way too much on lightning. That being said, the hero right now, until it gets a little bit better, I think is the perfect armory deck. It's never going to do crazy at a big event in my opinion, but it is one of the most fun decks to play. It's the most fun deck I've had since I first picked up Katsu. I would put it at the top of Armory viable, both in power and in how much fun it is. I think it's like the perfect deck to show somebody.
Breezy, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he's perfectly passable at Armory, but anything above that until he gets some kind of supplemental kind of boost that would help him make today's meta or make him viable in today's meta. I agree. I think he was built in a world where things were the landscape was much different. He also seems kind of like he's just got too many different things going. Like there's just not like this thing that he does. Like he's a wizard, but he's a lightning wizard, and like you have all these instants, but like you like kill your opponent, dude. Like just fight the game, like play the game, dude. So I'm gonna say viable, just because I don't want to tell anybody not to play him yet.
Oh, okay.
He's too young. He's better than Zen.
Better than Zen? Better than Rhinar?
Everybody's better than Zen.
I put him at the top of Armory viable personally.
Okay. All right. Here's my take on Azaelia. Azaelia needs to be here, and that's about as far as he can climb right now. But I think that people, like you said, are not building him perhaps correctly. Well, maybe that's not the right way to say it. I think people are putting together a list that on the surface feels very powerful because they're doing what Aurora does already.
Yeah.
And so it's just about Aurora.
They're like, we're playing Aurora, we're just doing Aurora light. And I think that is close to what he wants to do, but they're perhaps missing the point. And the point is the arcane damage. And so I feel like there's a lot of players that are perhaps cutting a lot of decent to really good arcane spells in favor of just more go wide stuff, and that misses the point on what he can actually do. Now, his biggest turns, funnily enough, are off of the back of Gone in a Flash and, like doing all the crazy instant things and then ending with the spell. But if your deck isn't built to have the spell 1 per turn, or maybe 1 plus a few like percentage points per turn, then you just miss out on so much damage. And this is now, in my opinion, the hardest deck in the format to play. I know everyone's saying Levia, and Mansant's in the chat. Maybe you could tell me if you think Levia is the hardest deck in the format to play optimally. I think Azaelia now rivals that. I think it's so easy to just throw a game by pressing a button or by playing a card or discarding a card. It's so much easier now to throw a game with him than it is with like any normal wizard. That he punishes you, but in kind of a fun way. Like you kind of watch the game completely collapse, and you're like, what if I just didn't do that next time? And you're like, well, crap. Okay, maybe I'll remember that. To me, this is where he belongs. But I think this is a fantastic spot for him right now in the C tier, and that, everyone, is that. Are there any final changes as we hit that pretty much perfect hour 45-minute mark on this massive tier list of all the heroes? Anything you would change before we wrap it up?
No, nothing too great. I mean, there's a couple of people you could look around, but I think the point of a tier list is to have some fun hot takes. Like I could easily see Viserai being like bottom of B if it doesn't end up. Sorry, Parker, if it doesn't end up going well. I also could see.
If you say so.
No, I also could see like if Enigma goes down, like this. That's the fun part about all these takes is like this meta is going to be one of the more fluid metas in a very short amount of time that we've had in a while. So it's going to be fun seeing where heroes stack up and such. So overall, no, I wouldn't change anything.
I would definitely make a snap change. I would do this to start. That to me is, I feel like these are the 3 heroes that I would be looking at if I'm sitting down to try and win an event. Am I going to play against this? Am I going to play against this? Or am I going to play against this? Or am I just going to play one of those? To me, this is what I would look at. But having it here is fine as well, I would imagine. Maybe this is the aggro deck, and so maybe that's there.
I saw Brody back on Vis. I think it's about to be a problem.
That's spicy.
That is his favorite hero. That is funny.
That is spicy. Well, I guess with that, we're going to wrap up this tier list and wave goodbye. But if you enjoy this sort of thing, make sure to follow these guys right above me on their channels, link in the description. Keep Azaelia in S, says Sean. But as of right now, that's what we got for you. So if you enjoy tier lists, this is our first foray into tier lists as a group. Let us know that in a comment below. And if you want more of this stuff, it's a weekly show. We do this literally every week without exception. I think that's true.
Never missed a beat.
No, come on. Come on now.
My purple lights never die.
No. Not literally in the middle. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? All right, my friends. With that, let's all smile and wave. Goodbye. Goodbye
everybody.
See ya. See you later. S tier Viserai.